Hey, friend, it is Brandon Gustafson with Assisted Living Investing. I help beginners like you launch their assisted living business in the next 12 months. Excited to have you here with me on the channel. Today, we're talking about TBI, traumatic brain injury in assisted living. I have actually been getting a ton of comments on this on YouTube, questions in the Facebook group, and so wanted to address that here for you all in a live video today. If you are new here to the channel, and you're catching one of these, type in newbie down below. I love seeing all the new people as they are getting started and trying to figure out how to launch their assisted living business. So make sure you type that in. And with that, I'm going to shift this over. Make sure you go grab your free business plan checklist as well. Go to assistedlivinginvesting.net/BP checklist. I've got that. It'll be down here on the bottom of the corner. I think it's, I don't know, right there. You should be able to go and grab that free checklist to help you out as you're launching your assisted living business. It is one of the key components that you need to have a business plan in order for you to launch your assisted living business. And for those of you who are on the live today, I have time for some Q&A, but I do have a commitment right after this, so I have a little bit of time. So if you can queue up your questions for me early on, that would be great. And if I do not get to them, I apologize, but please put them in the comments, and then I can get to you afterwards, either in the comments or in a specific video on that for you. So with that said, I'm going to grab a link here and make sure this gets into our Facebook group, and we'll post that there. And let's go ahead and get started. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Brandon Gustafson. I own and operate two assisted living facilities. I've been doing this since 2020. I do it out of state. So, I live in Utah. One of my facilities is in Colorado, the other one is in Idaho, and have been doing that for, like I said, since 2020. I've secured over $1.5 million in SBA funding. I'm very familiar with that process. I also have a master's in healthcare administration. So, I've worked in the healthcare industry now for over a decade, have a lot of experience just kind of working and understanding exactly how to operate these businesses and how to navigate all of the things that come with working in the healthcare industry, and love helping and coaching people along the way. Now, with that said, let's talk about TBI. So TBI, I'm just going to refer to it as that going forward, so I don't have to say the full name because this is healthcare. We love acronyms, but TBI stands for traumatic brain injury. Typically, what happens is, typically this happens because there is an injury that occurs to the head that disrupts normal brain function. That could be a fall, a car accident, strokes, sports injuries, military-related trauma. Could be any number of things. There's no specific reason why somebody would get TBI versus somebody that doesn't if they were to fall. It just kind of happens. There are two types of TBI as well. So with TBI, there's mild TBI, and this is temporary effects that can still impact your daily life, but generally you're able to function at a pretty high level, and you probably have bad days. And then there's also severe TBI, which is permanent cognitive, emotional, and physical impairments. That's permanent, and there's not a lot of fluctuation. It's just bad all the time. There's a lot of people that have TBI, that suffer from TBI. I did some research here. These are from the Brain Injury Association of America. Over 5.3 million Americans, which is approximately 1 in every 60 people, live with TBI, which is crazy to think about. That it's 1 in every 60 people. I mean, you just go to the grocery store, you're probably interacting with somebody that has TBI. Is probably more on the mild side, but you're still going to be interacting with them. So to that point, a lot of them are normal. Like you wouldn't know. They just sometimes they have bad days and sometimes they had good days. It's very similar to working with somebody that has like bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. Some days they're really good. Like in that case, they're on their medications. They're doing fine. And if they go off it, they struggle. You're going to deal with some of that with people that have TBI as well. And also, each year, like on an annual basis, 2.8 million people are sustaining TBI. So the rate at which people are getting TBI, it feels like it's going up. So this is the reason why people are looking at this is from an assisted living standpoint is States, there are some states that are doing higher rates for this, and so I wanted to get out in front of it because it's an interesting population to serve. And that's one of the cool things that I love about assisted living is you can be so niched down in the group that you want to be serving and who you want to be helping. It's really kind of a fun thing to be able to do. So if you're super passionate about helping people with autism or serving a mental health population or TBI or seniors, like you can create your own facility that kind of just focuses in on that. And that's something that's really interesting. So if you have been impacted by TBI, comment TBI down below. Would love to hear from you. But also, it's something that if you've been impacted by it and you have a personal story, you can really take leverage that as you're building out your business plan and trying to work with people and telling your personal story of how you were impacted by TBI, whether that was you that had it or a loved one that had it, and maybe they passed away or maybe they're dealing with it right now. It can help you build your story, which really can create a lot of trust for you when people are looking for facilities, which is something, and it's one of those things where there's a fine line between like taking advantage of it and leveraging it. And you telling your story is helpful to a lot of people. It allows you to come off as a person that like is authentic and wants to help them and move things forward. And so that's something that I want you to keep in mind as you're looking at this, and looking at TBI, because of the prevalence, the chances of several of you watching my videos having dealt with somebody with TBI, I would say is pretty high. And so it's something that you should be considering here. If that's a population you want to serve and want to help, there's a need out there, and you can do that here in assisted living. So I did want to talk a little bit here about the difference between TBI and memory care because they are totally different things. But I think, having seen some of the comments and things, I think there's a lot of confusion between what TBI is versus what memory care is, and do you have to have a memory care license if you want to be serving a TBI resident, or what does that look like? So I wanted to give you kind of a quick overview of what that actually looks like and the difference between the two so that you know what's going on here. And something that I want to make sure is explicit is the needs of a TBI resident. It can vary widely from day to day, whereas memory care is pretty consistently declining or in a high need state. So the let's see. I want to check something over here really quick. Okay, I just want to make sure. I'm going to tell you something that's not on the chart here really fast from a licensing perspective. Memory care licenses, it's a separate license. So I've done a video on this in the past where you have like your kind of like care home license, and then you have assisted living, and then you have memory care, and then you have nursing home. So it's kind of step up. Memory care is a higher level of care than assisted living, generally slightly higher, but you're still below nursing homes. Um, you have to have a certain type of license that just basically states you're providing your staff with more training around memory care issues, dementia, Alzheimer's, those types of diseases that individuals could have. There's extra training that goes on there. Also, you're going to be dealing likely with flight risks. So oftentimes, because they forget, and so you're going to be needing to have a locked facility is kind of what you're going to see in a memory care facility. An individual with TBI could be in a memory care facility. It's fine. Memory care facilities can step down and have residents below their level of care, but a resident that has severe dementia and needs memory care needs to move from assisted living up to memory care. Okay, a resident with TBI more than likely can be in a traditional assisted living under that license type. Okay, so I just want to clarify there the difference in licenses. So let's look at cognitive changes between TBI and memory care. So with TBI, it varies widely. You might have some clear moments of thought processes, and you may have some periods of confusion as well. It just kind of depends, and it's going to depend on the severity of of the TBI that the individual has. Whereas with memory care, it is progressively declining over time. Generally, with an individual that has a memory care issue, they will continue to go down. And you're not going to see improvement very much. You may see static, you may see something that doesn't move, but it doesn't start getting better. It just continues to go down. Now, changes in technology, 3 years from now or 10 years from now or whatever it is, that could change for sure. But as we stand today, as a recording of this in 2025, it declines progressively over time. Now let's talk about personality shifts. So and I have a lot of experience actually, not with TBI, but working with mental health. So one of my facilities works with mental health, and so a lot of what I see here, as I was doing the research on TBI, I was like, oh man, that's very analogous to my work with the mental health population in my facility, and so I see a lot of this. So let's talk about personality shifts. With TBI, you're going to often include impulsivity, aggression, depression. You're going to see a lot of that. Whereas with memory care, it typically is going to be confusion and forgetfulness, which can result in anger and aggression for sure. But the root cause of that is going to be they're confused or they just don't remember something. Whereas with TBI, the aggression that happens is it's much more a result of the injury to the brain. It's not born out of confusion and forgetfulness. Hopefully that makes sense, but it's different, the way that you work through those things. Let's talk about care needs. So with TBI, you're going to have something that may need some behavioral management or some physical therapy to get back. Behavioral management is a huge thing in assisted living, especially mental health. But as people start to age and decline, there's a lot of behavioral management that goes into assisted living and caring for residents. And you're going to see that a lot with TBI. Whereas with memory care, those care needs are focused on routine and memory support. I was talking with a buddy of mine who's in Idaho, and he wants to create a memory care village. I love the idea of what he's doing, but a part of that is creating this space that is. You have goats, or you have animals. You have an old truck for people to work on. You have something that is very consistent and maybe takes them back a few years. Having some pet therapy, those types of things in the facility, in the ecosystem, because doing those things and having it be super consistent, everything is regimented, and you know exactly what's going to happen, helps individuals with memory care issues, with memory loss, Alzheimer's, dementia, those types of things, because it is so consistent. It may feel repetitive to you as a worker, but to the individual that's suffering from that, not so much. It really helps them out a lot. Whereas with TBI, you're working on more behavioral management types of things, is what you're going to be dealing with. And then the progression. So with an individual with TBI, and we see this with with mental health issues as well, individuals can stabilize. They can improve over time with therapy, with medication. They can get better to the point that they may not need assisted living any longer. And so that's something that you should keep in mind as well. You can help people, and they can be in that position for a really long time. Whereas memory care issues, it will progressively decline always over time to the point that an individual will pass away from it. Those are some of the big differences. There's a lot of differences between TBI and memory care. It's a different license. There's a lot that goes into that, and hopefully that gives some clarity to people that are just trying to figure out exactly what that looks like. The best way to serve your residents that have TBI is you want to train your staff in behavioral and cognitive challenges. That is something that working in a traditional assisted living that's elderly care, you may not see as much of. Working in something that's mental health, we get it all the time. And you need to train your staff on how to handle those situations, because they can arise and it can be rough. Like it can be a little more physically demanding. It can be very mentally taxing when you have to deal with that. And so that's something that I want you to be aware of as well. You need to design the home for safety and functionality, safety for the resident themselves, for the other residents, for the staff. Make sure that everything's okay there, because when somebody has a behavioral outburst, it can potentially become dangerous, and so that's something that you want to be aware of. It's not always the case. But that's where learning how to de-escalate a situation and have conversations and building good relationships and handling those behavioral challenges is really important. Creating individualized care plans is a requirement across assisted living, but is very important for TBI, and to not just like throw them into, oh, yep, you've got that. Here's your care plan. We're going to do these things every single day, and it needs to be very individualized. That is super important for assisted living in general, but you need to have something that's very personal. And you need to work with families and specialists to make sure that people know how things are going. Are they progressing? Are they declining? Do adjustments need to be made to the care plan, to medication, to therapy, to whatever? You need to have those conversations and be very open about it, because it allows you to make sure you're serving your residents to the level that they need their service. Very, very important for you to do that. Let's talk about challenges of working with TBI residents. So there's licensing and compliance. That's going to be a challenge. I mean, challenge overall in assisted living. But what you're going to want to do as you do that is you want to make sure you have very specific policies that state how you're going to work with residents with TBI. The license itself is more than likely just a normal assisted living license. There may be some extra boxes you need to check there, but there's not going to be much that goes into that. If you're going to serve a Medicaid population, there may be some extra boxes you need to check to make sure that you are certified to work with residents that would have TBI. So that's something you might need to do. But the application process itself is not overly complicated compared to anything else that you're going to be doing. But you will likely need to have specific policies on how you work with residents who have TBI, how you handle certain situations, those behavioral issues that come up, how you're going to do mediation if you needed to with a resident that has an outburst. Those are the types of things that you really need to have policies for, because it allows you and your staff to know how to handle those situations when they come up, and they will. When you're working with a population like this, like, it's just going to happen. It's the reality of it, and so it's better for you to have that under wraps. And if you don't have that policy when the situation does arise, after it, to do kind of a little bit of a debrief with you and your team, and then write a policy on how to do it, so you know how to handle those situations in the future. Really important for you to do those types of things as well. It keeps you in compliance, allows you and your staff to know how to handle those situations as well. Speaking of staffing, there's potential for higher staffing ratios. It depends on the severity of the reactions that an individual with TBI has. So if you have a really high needs resident, there's potential for more staffing just for protection. Although a lot of the times when you need more staffing, it's because staff can't handle things physically, which means like lifting people. So as long as you have individuals that are able to physically be autonomous, the chances of you needing to bring in more staff is probably um, actually reduced from traditional assisted living. But it's something you want to keep in mind as well. It may shift. Maybe you need to have larger physical mills there just in case something does happen with it. So it might shift a little bit the way that you're looking at how to handle staff. Those are case by case situations, and you want to look at it and make sure you are meeting the needs of the resident based off of their care plan. But that's something for you to keep in mind, that staffing ratios may be adjusted when you're working with this population. And you're going to be dealing with behavioral issues, and that means you need staff that know how to handle those, how to de-escalate those situations, how to work with people, and to understand that the behavioral issues are maybe not quite as physically taxing as you might see if you had to do lifts or helping people out with toileting or bathing or things like that. But it can be very mentally taxing because you are dealing with people who are acting out, who are having issues. And so it's something, there's a lot of training that is involved with it. And you want to make sure that staff understand kind of what that's going to look like and how it's going to impact their day-to-day work. it can be hard. Like it really, really can be because it's different from a lot of people. It takes a very special person to work with those behavioral issues. And so that's something you want to be aware of. Now, all of that said, you may have a resident that has TBI that has no behavioral issues, and there's just some other cognitive issues or things like that, and they're totally fine. Like that happens all the time, even in mental health, it happens. But you still want to just kind of be aware of what's going on, and make sure you are accounting for that as you move into that. So that's TBI. That's all traumatic brain injuries. Hope you like that. If you did, make sure you like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, so you get notified every time we put out content like this. For those of you that are here live, go ahead and start typing in your questions, and I'll get to those here. I just want to make sure I've got enough time to hit those before I have to jump off to another meeting. But if you need help as you're trying to figure out this process, specifically like with TBI and the licensing process and what that's going to look like for you, and making sure you have the house that's going to work, would love to see if I can help you out. You can go check out my accelerator course, assistedlivinginvesting.net/accelerator, or /ALA, sorry. And that will allow you to get a process, a 5-phase process that can really help you make progress towards launching your own assisted living business. Because my goal here is to help you launch your assisted living business in the next 12 months. So let's go ahead and get over to our Q&A. Type in your questions down below, like the video, subscribe, ring the bell, do all those things so you get notified. I just recorded a bunch of like amazing videos that are going to come out soon. Earlier today, super excited to get those out to you. And so if you are doing all those things, then you'll get notified when we put it out there for you. All right, let's shift over to this screen here. All righty. Questions. All right, we got a bunch of you in here, so if you got questions, I got like 5 minutes to answer whatever questions you got. One thing that I want to make sure is really clear as you're working with TBI is it's not something to be scared of at all. It's something that like you can have a huge impact on people's lives when you're doing this. I when we started our facilities, our one in Colorado works with a mental health population, and for me, it was totally different. Not what I was expecting at all. But I love going and visiting those residents. Like they're super. They're just so much fun to talk to and get to know and understand where they're coming from and their life experiences. And man, it is just like one of the most rewarding things to be working with that population. And while I don't work directly with individuals with TBI, my experience working with that mental health population leads me to just have a better understanding of the type of care and love that it takes to be working with residents that deal with these more unique situations that they go through in their lives. So I just want to make sure that's super clear. Well, with that, I'm going to close things out because I'm not getting any questions. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Thanks for being here. I want to remind you to go grab that free business plan checklist. Grab that tool so that you can make some progress on your journey to launching your assisted living business. And yeah, does residential assisted living sound interesting to you, but you don't know how to get started? At Assisted Living Investing, I'm here to help beginners like you launch their assisted living business in the next 12 months. Love helping and coaching people just like you and making progress. And want to remind you that it doesn't take a lot, just a little bit. Just keep going step by step. And I promise you, if you do and you're consistent and persistent, you're going to be successful. And with that, I now have questions that are popping up in here. So we're going to do a couple of those super fast. Before I log off. So Dana, you were just diagnosed with TBI last week after being assaulted by a 700-pound autistic man in adult daycare. Man, I'm so sorry to hear that, Dana. That's rough. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know where to go, so I'm just going to move on to the next one. That's really rough. I apologize to hear that. Shar, this was very helpful. Thank you. You are so welcome. Thank you for thanks for hopping on here. Dana, should you disclose that to your residents? I mean you could. I don't think there's anything wrong with disclosing that. And you don't need to be sorry. You're good. I I don't know that you need to disclose it. I think it's helpful for people to know it. I would maybe even reach out to an attorney, um, and ask them their thought. There, I don't think is going to be any legal reason why you should do that. Um, it would just maybe be a transparency thing, but you could look at how it's impacting you, your TBI, how that's impacting you, and is it impacting your ability to run the business? In which case, if it is, and it's negatively impacting it, then you might just need to bring other people in, because like you could still be super passionate about the work that you're doing, even with TBI. Like that's not going to impact your ability and your desire to help people and move things forward, right? Um, at all. And so I think it's more of a personal decision. Now, if it starts impacting your ability and you are feeling some of that aggression and things are starting to go downhill from you for you, at that point, you might want to take a step back just so that you are aware of doing that. But sharing that, I think, could have a positive impact as well on working on getting people to be like, oh man, like Dana is doing this with the TBI, and uh, I would love to go to her house. Like there's kind of a give and take there to see what's going to work for you. So hopefully that helps you out. Um, yeah, glad things are getting better for you. Um, yeah, totally. Um, but thank you for sharing that. Like that's that's rough. It's not easy to go through. Hopefully that helped you out a little bit. All right, I got to drop for my other call, but I want to thank you all again for watching. Remind you, does residential assisted living sound interesting, but you don't know how to get started? I can, at Assisted Living Investing, I'm here to help beginners like you launch their assisted living business. And remember, it doesn't take a lot, just a little bit. Keep going step by step by step, and I promise you, if you do and you're consistent and persistent, you're going to be successful. Thanks again for watching, and we will talk to you next.